Hi there, welcome to this lesson video for solving quadratics by factoring. So we're going to be given a quadratic equation, and we're going to be asked to find the roots or the zeros, and we're going to be able to do so by factoring. So just a connection I'd kind of like you to make. First, there's this picture. Yes, it's kind of blurry, but I want to work on the right side first. It says factor this equation, which in previous lessons, since there's an understood 1 in front of x squared, we talked about factoring like with an x puzzle. So we want to think about what multiplies to 6 and what two numbers add to 5. So what two numbers multiply to 6 and add to 5. And so think about the factors of 6, 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Now, since both the numbers are positive, I know both of my numbers that I'm trying to figure out are also positive. So I think I need to go with the pair 2 and 3. These numbers multiply to the number above, 6, and those numbers add to the number below, 5. So then remember we talked about just taking this and grouping it as x plus 2 and x plus 3. Now, take a look at my factored groups here, and this is actually the picture, a graphing of this equation over here, this expression, this quadratic expression. What do you notice? Now, I understand it's kind of hard to read. It's kind of blurry when I copied it over. But here's what I want you to notice. These points where we're crossing the x-axis. If you can't tell, this is crossing at x equals -2. So in other words, the point -2, 0. And this point is hitting when x is -3. So the point -3, 0. So what comparison can you make with these numbers versus the factoring that we found over to the right? Well, hopefully you're noticing that it's just the opposite. X equaled -2, but in the group it was x plus 2, and over here x plus 3 turned in, the point over here, equaled -3. So there's plus 3 in the group, but the actual root over here was x equals -3. So what happened from here to here to make this jump? Well, notice in the ordered pair, the y value equals 0. So for this expression here, we want to know the 2 points that make this thing equal 0. So like replacing y with a 0. So we can go through and do our factoring, and we still want this product to equal 0. So then there's this product rule that if two things that are multiplied equal 0, then one or both must equal 0. So what that means is the group x plus 2 must equal 0, or possibly the group x plus 3 equals 0. But hopefully you can see that just solving this with some quick manipulation, we would subtract 2 and then we would subtract 3. We can see why the roots turn to the opposite. So that's just a nice little illustration connecting the actual equation with the graph and what roots really mean. So I kind of skipped over what's similar or different about your answers concerning the graph versus factoring. They were just opposites, okay? They were opposites. So whatever we got in our factored group, it was just opposite over here on the graph. They were opposite signs, I guess I should say. Okay, so then let's look at another one. Here there's no picture. I just say solve this for the roots. And so now that there's a 6, I can't do divide and slide unless all three numbers are divisible by 6 and I can take a GCF out. Let's see, 6, 15, and 9. Well, no, they aren't all divisible by a 6, but they are divisible by a 3. So let me take that factor of 3 out. And so we're just going to divide all those three numbers by 3. And so we'll end up with 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And man, If I could have gotten rid of this coefficient here, I could have done an x puzzle, but because there's a 2 there, no way around it. I got to do this multiply and expand deal. So let's see. In previous videos, we talked about how to factor this. So the first step is to do the first times the last, and I get -6. And then the second step is to figure out what two numbers will multiply to -6 and add to that middle number -5. So kind of like an X puzzle here. Multiplies to -6, adds to -5. Let's see, I need a positive and a negative. So I think I should do -6 and a +1. And we've talked about you take these two factors and you break apart this -5x. You know, you were used to seeing like terms where we combine them. We're kind of doing the opposite. So take a look what's happening. I'm keeping everything the same. I'm keeping my 3 up front. I'm keeping the 2x squared. But this that's underlined in green is going to change. I'm going to break it apart instead of adding it together. So it's going to be -6x plus 1x. And then finish it off the same, -3. Okay. So hopefully you see where this -6 and this +1 came from. It came from the previous step, number 2. Okay. So now, continuing with our factoring process, we've got these 4 terms that we're going to group. These 2 guys and these 2 guys. So what, in the first group, what do they have in common? You know what, I think I'm just going to bring this 3 down at the end. So I'm just going to treat this like we normally do. Let's see. 2 and 6, they both share a 2. And they both share an x. So what's left? Let's see. 2 times what will get me back to 2? A 1. X squared, he's losing an x, so he bumps down to just an x. Minus 2 times what will give me 6? A 3. And he had an x, but we're taking it away. So this second term is just a number now. Look, this green group is already the same with this other group. So that's good. You know, for grouping, we need that. So 1x minus 3. But what about what goes out front? Well, when they don't need any, when it doesn't need changed, just say that it shares a factor of 1. So let's see, 2 groups here. 2x plus mushed together in a group, and then I'm gonna drop the 1. Oh, I wanted green. There we go. X minus 3 comes from those groups that are the same. Okay, and don't forget about this guy. He's easy to forget. That GCF, we want to make sure that we bring him down. So this would be the final factored answer, but I'm solving, so I'm not done. Okay, I'm going to take this over here, and let's see, 2x plus 1, x minus 3. So this is factored. Now I have to take these groups and set them to 0, because you know to solve it means this. There's an equals 0 at the end. So the 3 is really inconsequential. This I need to set equal to 0. 2x plus 1 equals 0. Or this guy could possibly be 0. And that's making that product equal 0 at the end. So I got to figure out these x values. So just do some quick solving, you know, -1, and then we would divide by 2. So x would equal -1/2. And then here, just simply add 3. So then x will equal 3. Okay, so these are my roots. Now I took the liberty to fire up GeoGebra to show you a picture. We're looking to cross the x-axis at -1/2 and +3. So here's the picture. The y-axis is counting by 5s and the x-axis is counting by 1s. I did that so you can see the whole U shape. But take a look. Indeed, there's our root crossing at 3. And here is our root crossing at -1/2. Okay, so our solutions do match the graph, which is good. All right, one last thing I want to show you on this video is making connection with word problems. Okay, so we've got this guy PJ. He's a renowned Australian diver, and he's famous for diving off a 96-foot high cliff into the ocean. The height of PJ in midair may be modeled by this equation, where h is the height of PJ in air and t is the time in seconds. Find the time it takes for PJ to hit the water's surface. Now, I will say I don't know how accurate this problem is. Okay, I just made it work out nice for the numbers so we could factor. Okay, so let's see. Don't try this at home. In other words, this is my equation, and I'm wanting to know this. So if I put this picture in perspective of a coordinate plane, ooh, that was a terrible line. You know, here's, here we go. Here's PJ. He started off the cliff and he jumped off, and so now he's traveling in a parabola shape, and I want to know when it is he'll hit the water. So bam, right here. Okay, this is obviously his height. Okay, I need to find the time, how long it takes him in the air to finally hit the water. Okay, so we're going to take this guy and we're going to factor him. So let's see, 16, 40, and 96. Do they share a common factor? And indeed, these numbers, they do share a common factor. So let's see, come on, there we go. They all actually are divisible by 8. Remember, you want to go for the biggest. So when I divide these three numbers by 8, I get negative 2t squared plus 5t plus a 12. Okay? And so then this should look familiar. We just got done doing this. We got to factor this guy. So like I said, I'm going to wait. We'll bring down the 8 at the end. Just treat this like normal. So the first thing to do is find the product of the first number times the last number. Negative 2 times a 12. So that's going to be a negative 24. Second step, what two numbers multiply to negative 24 but add to this positive 5 in the middle? Well, for the sake of time, it's going to be an 8 and a negative 3. Multiply to negative 24 and add to a 5. All right, so we're going to expand this 5t in the middle. So negative 2t squared plus 8t minus 3t. Okay, so instead of combining like terms, we took them apart using the two numbers we got from step 2. Okay, and so now I've got 4 terms, so I'm going to group. Remember, I want a plus sign in the middle, so I'm treating that as if it were a negative 3. And so what do these two guys share? Let's see. They share a 2t. I'm going to go ahead, well, nah. So this guy would be a negative t plus 4. And I know I'm hurrying, but I'm watching the clock. These two guys, they share, let's see, plus 3. So then they would have a negative t plus 4. Okay, now, you know, we're going to replace this h with, well, I'll wait and do that. Never mind. I'll do that. Oh, no. Okay, so when I do my grouping, we're going to have 2t plus 3 in one group, and then negative t plus 4 in another. Now remember, we had this 8 that we don't want to forget about. And since we're solving, we want this to equal 0. Now for the sake of time, I won't have time to show you all the work. But if I took this group equal to 0, I would get a t value of negative 3/2. Try it out, see if you get the same thing. If I were to set this group equal to 0, I would get a t value of, let's see, I'd subtract 4 and then divide by negative 1. I'd get a t value of positive 4. So now what this means, you cannot have negative time. That doesn't make sense. So that number is out. And so what this means is it takes him 4 seconds to hit the water. Okay, so that finishes it up for this video. Sorry I had to rush that last one. I suggest maybe going to this video next. But that's it for me on this one. Keep learning, have fun, and I'll see you next time.